Sorry about that. I forgot I had to take a phone call. Where were we? Inland Beach. So Inland Beach last year was a filly we brought up from the Maritimes, trained her down. She was a Sunshine Beach filly. Pretty decent filly. Paced some miles, I think 55, 56, 57. Qualified well last quarter, 27-4 this year, and has come back well. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to race with the pandemic starting. But when we get back, she'll be ready to go. Was very good in her training set last week, winning. And then this week, Jason McGinnis went with her for for Mario. She came first over and was very good, gave a very good account of herself. So Inland Beach, kind of the type of filly everybody would like to own, just an effective filly. And I think she'll get the strutter stuff once we get her back to the track. Get a little bright out. Who do we got next? We have my boy Johan. So Johan, let's start. Tell the whole story of Johan. So last year I bought Johan at the sale. No one, I think one share was sold of Johan at the sale. I owned pretty near all of him when he landed back in Campbellville, Ontario. First day, one of our clients, Steve Palermo, came, and he wasn't that high in the Sebastian K's as a breed. He wasn't a first-time sire guy, and I am. So he was looking at what horses he would like to buy into. He was at the sale with us. He looked at a number of horses. With me. Just a friend. You love going to the sales. We love looking at horses. And when I come up on the track with Johan, first time he ever had the harness on, all he did was trot 1, 2, 3, 4. It looked like you could train him right now. And Steve wanted to buy all of them. So Steve and I ended up owning Johan. Trained down great. I think we had a few partners, 4 or 5 on the horse or something. He trained down great, and then literally schooled on a Thursday or Friday and ended up hurting himself. Got a suspensory behind, which is rare, I guess, for a 2-year-old, but it happens. I really didn't know what would happen. So we were just about to start schooling, qualifying, racing, and going to different jurisdictions. So that was it. That was it for Johan. Stood in the stall, turned him out in the field when his leg was good, put him on the walker, brought him back up to the veterinarian. She cryoed him. So cryoing is I've told you guys, it's a machine where they nitrogen freeze little dots, which cause little scars, which hold that suspensory together. Now, those scars obviously aren't pliable, but they're like zip ties, let's say, right? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So I wasn't happy with the way the rate in which we had horses come back positive from suspensory issues, especially in hind legs with trotters. So the rate of re-injury was almost 100%. Now, we followed the veterinarian's instructions. We did everything we thought we were supposed to, and they still always re-injured. And I just couldn't figure out why. So we were going to do something different. Rather than train him back on the trot, we're going to train him back on the gallop. A little more work into him without putting stress directly on the ligaments and tendons the same way you would trotting. Just have the most natural gait, which is a gallop. We trained him back and worked up his stamina and worked up his stamina and worked up his stamina. We trained him like that for 2 months minimum, maybe 3. Before we started to train him on the trot, we brought him back up to the clinic. She said the suspensory is perfect. As good as you could expect it to be or hope it to be right now. We trained him 2 or 3 times. I even scratched him one day. The track wasn't good. I went out. We qualified a horse. I think he was into school. I qualified a horse in the first qualifier. I come in and Jason was there. I said, take the harness off Johan. He's not schooling on that track. He schooled a couple of times good after that. And then the pandemic hit. So we trained him a couple of times at the farm, and I didn't know how much we could train him on a half-mile track, how good he'd be. Then 2 weeks ago he was good, and then yesterday was the old Johan. I never really thought I'd ever see the old Johan again. I never thought I'd be able to say, that's him, right? And I don't know where that will lead. It's not like It's not like I'm sitting home saying, geez, I wish I had paid him into the Hamiltonian. I'm not saying that. I just happy. Just happy to see the old Johan back. So Johan is back physically, mentally stronger than he's ever been, physically good. I don't know if he'll ever be 100%. That leg did get injured when he was young, and the ability to re-injure it is always there. But to date, knock on wood, he's perfect. So really excited to see Johan back. Just for me and you was a filly that was good last year. Just seeing when everybody else seemed to be getting good classes, she got bad ones. When everybody else would draw good, she drew poor. She still ended up with a mark of 58 in the mud, I believe, at the Meadows with Dave Pallone. I think Dave drove her. And then finished off her year all right. We gave her time, brought her back, and she's been awesome. James really likes her. I mean, if you're going to critique her a little bit, running in a little bit, chewing at her, up on her jacks a little bit. We have boots for that. And then in the straightaway, she'll run out a bit. I think that those will both dissipate as she puts some more muscle on, some more strength on. That will dissipate a little bit. Very happy with Just For Me and You. She's just a really, really nice filly. Much like Path of Totality, both of these fillies could see themselves in better racing than even I suspected even a month ago. Knockdown Dragout, all up until now, we've been talking about how she's been training with Aki. Now, we'll back it up all the way to the start. That's a long way. Knockdown Dragout was bought as a weanling. I didn't buy her because she was well bred. I bought her because she was a beautiful filly. She was a first crop Sebastian K, and I wanted one. And it was funny because Knockdown Dragout was bred around the Peterborough, Ontario area. So she went from Peterborough to Harrisburg back to Campbellville. It's quite a trip. We turned her out, and we turned her out back near Peterborough, so she even went closer to home. So she was turned out. She was turned out and brought her in as a yearling. And we had bought her because we bought Muscle Chrome. So we bought 2 fillies, brought them in. Obviously, Muscle Chrome has struggled and will be a decent horse, but she's not Knockdown Dragout. Knockdown Dragout trained down as impressive as you'd like to see. You could tell she had raw speed, raw talent. Mentally, she was always a little bit stubborn, and that was on display shortly after that. We schooled her, got her ready here, and sent her down to Andrew Harris. Andrew Harris qualified her with Dave Miller. She was a runaway. Won the qualifier by a football field in 57. A lot of people were talking about her. Dave Miller was talking about her. And then her first start and all her starts after that were a problem. She was hard. To put her on the gate, she'd go on the gate, but then she'd get hot. She even got sore at the end of the year, was making breaks coming out of the gate. And the whole year was just a washout, right? It's just an unfortunate thing. And I think it was just mentally, this filly was not prepared to be a racehorse. And I blame myself, but I don't really know what else we could have done. And looking back at the other Sebastian Ks, they were all the same. Very hard to deal with, very hard to get under control, which is odd because One My Heart Hanover is a sweetheart and does everything you ask her to. And she's a Sebastian K. So it's not like we train One My Heart any different than Knockdown Dragout. It's not like the only difference is they're a year apart. So maybe his sperm matured in a year. I don't know. But Knockdown Dragout had lots of talent. Just one of those horses where, what if, right? And we brought her back, and we gave her to the person that trained Sebastian K. We gave her to Aki Svanstedt, and Aki's wife trained her in a group, and everything seemed fine. You know, the reports were good. And then one day Aki showed up and wanted to go with her, I guess, and took her to the main track, and she ran away with him. And he came off the track and said, not for me. And I think, to put myself in his shoes, here's an older gentleman, already accomplished so much in this game, certainly doesn't need to be training a horse that he doesn't own a share in for a guy in Canada, right? Probably just came in and said, I got a barn full of horses, I got one too many. And that was it. So we brought her back home with no expectations other than to get her back on track. And I think yesterday is any indicator, she's back on track. A very strong mile. And yes, a lot of people said, she was TQ'd, but we need to get her in the right frame of mind, right? A very structured frame of mind. She'll train very similar to the way she did yesterday for the next few weeks, until the next whenever they race. And then we'll qualify her, and hopefully when we qualify her, we'll be able to enough of that will sunk into her wooden head to the fact where no, she won't be as manageable, but she should be similar. So I think between myself and Aki's Funstead, we have decided that equipment is not going to solve this problem. Time, maturity likely will, maybe will, but nobody knows the time frame on that. I think medically we have an opportunity to get her to the races in a much more structured, stress-free manner. So knockdown drag out, I was happy with her yesterday. I think we'll continue to be happy with her, and then we'll see what we have to do moving forward with her. Miss Brampton Beast, probably one of our most impressive pacers training down last year. Very impressive filly. As we got into her racing schedule, it became obvious that she was a bit of a poser. She wouldn't finish off her work, didn't have that killer instinct. I know I drove her in 155 or 56 with her in Georgian, looked impressive. And then she won again, looked okay. Every time we put her in a position to get beat, she get beat. And I see her training back now. It was clear to me I wanted to get her in Kevin's barn. He's going to put a tougher workout into her training back, a more structured training schedule, and then we'll see what kind of horse knockdown or Miss Brampton Beast is. And I believe we're going to see that as soon as we get a chance to race. She looks like $1 million training right now, and I was very, very happy with her again yesterday. Muscle Chrome, this affiliate's had aches and pains since day one. Knees bothered her, feet bothered her. We had flip-flops on her, and Harry trained her 2 weeks ago. Said, I just don't think she's going to trot with these flip-flops on. Made a shoeing adjustment. I noticed he put toe weights on her yesterday also. Said she was much, much better, and I thought she was much better indeed. Nancy Allison, another filly, extremely high-strung, maybe even more so than Knockdown Dragon, if you can believe that. One's a Sebastian K, one's a Donato. Nancy Allison is very well-bred. Her sister was a millionaire, one of the better horses around at the time, and I believed Nancy Allison had the pedigree to be a very good horse, had the body to be a pretty good horse, and just didn't have the brain to. She was a little hot, a little hard on herself. Even 2 weeks ago, you saw how ornery she can get when she's not having a good day. Then last week, I said she was better. Still didn't have a great day. Found some corns in her feet. Worked on her all week. And just a totally different horse yesterday. James said she was just awesome. So Nancy Allison, much improved. Let's work from yesterday forward with Nancy Allison. Very happy with her yesterday. Need your opinion. This is a filly we trained down last year, and I told you guys multiple times, probably the worst bred horse in the province when you looked at the mother's side. Then you see Beef and Cheddar this year, and I don't know what was missing, but there's two very talented horses. So Need Your Opinion didn't get a lot of exposure, a lot of real limelight put on her until she forced you to. She started training better and better and better, and then looked awesome. And then her first start out paced in 52. Now, this is a horse that had issues with those allergies also. She would have been another horse like Harness AM I was talking about in the heat of the summer when it started. Always had mucus and issues in her airway. Had a couple of trickles of blood a couple of times, but not enough to put her on Lasix. But it really took its toll throughout the year. The night I was fourth with her near the end of the year, I think I could have won if I had a little more room, and then finished up okay in her staking. Had a decent year, but I believe it was completely overshadowed by those allergies and mucus that she had. And I'm very hopeful for a 3-year-old season. She looked great training yesterday. Olympic Hopeful was a filly we bought for Illinois. Trained her down. She looked okay. Sent her out to Illinois. She raced okay. But she's a bigger filly now, stronger filly now. Angie likes the way she's trained down, and we are hopeful that she'll have a pretty good 3-year-old campaign in Illinois. But we'll see. I guess step 1 is to have an effective horse. Step 2 is to have a stake horse. And I hope we get to both steps when we get back racing, especially in Illinois. I hope Illinois gets back soon because I'd like to send some horses out there to race also. Overdue Mission was a filly we bought in the sale, trained down. She'd made a lot of breaks, just didn't seem to have it all put together, but wasn't long after she got to the races she did. She won I believe, a Sire Stakes race in Bucyrus. It's a great track. Bucyrus. I had a lot of fun that night. I remember I won with what's the filly's name? Spirit of Dio the night before in the Meadowlands. First elimination of the New Jersey Sire Stakes. I won with Spirit of Dio, and the very next night I was in Bucyrus, Ohio, racing in a fair stake. It's two very different ends of the spectrum. The Meadowlands, winning a Sire Stakes race, winning a stake race in a fair in Ohio the very next night. It was cool. But I love the fair atmosphere, so was really more than happy to go there. I think Susie K was second or third that night also. It was just a good night, and Overdue Mission ended up having a decent year. Had some struggles with allergies also. She's not ready yet to go. She looked sound. She looked comfortable yesterday, but definitely a power outage there from that filly. I'm not really that concerned with it. We got lots of time to put the power back on, and I'm sure we will, but definitely needs some work going forward. Path of Totality, here's a filly that, well-bred filly, has a ton to offer. Last year, we trained her down without the hobbles, and right before the schoolers, she got looking at stuff and making breaks. Just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. We had to put the hobbles on her. Didn't seem to slow her down. Her first lifetime start, I think she was a winner in 58 in a stake race. And then showed some ability all year, got sick at the end of the year, and we stopped with her. I gave her to Kevin McMaster to train back, and Kevin will tell you, not a trotting guy, but he puts a lot of work into them and is a very, very good experienced horseman and loves. He told me last week, he said, and as he said, I'm not a trotting guy, but I absolutely love this filly. She made a little noise last week. Kevin put a choke plate on her, tied her tongue out just in case it was really just stress. I trained her yesterday. I don't know how fast we come her last quarter, but we were I run down Bottle of Red, and Bottle of Red was right to the wall, foot right to the floor coming out of the last turn, and I trotted right past her halfway down the lane. So Path of Totality was as impressive a mile as I've seen from a trotter in quite a while over that track. I can't wait to race her now. This is the first time I sat behind her since last year. But man, oh man, she is an impressive looking filly right now. Really Blue Chip trained down good. I think Doug said he'd been in 2 minutes or 2-1 or something with her in Florida. I said to Jason when he got her, I said, the only key to her, keep weight on her. Much like Trafalgar, it's extremely hard to keep the weight on. Both of them eat really well. They just don't put weight on. And I know there's going to be a million people send me supplement this and feeds that. We tried a million things on both these horses. They're just growing fillies that take their job real seriously, and they fret a little bit when they're on the track. And I think that it's just going to take time. She got lots of muscle on. She's training good. Just have to keep a close eye on that weight. Don't work her too hard. And heaven forbid you put a couple of pounds of weight on her. That would be great also. So Really Blue Chip will start slow miles on Wednesday. She'll be back Saturday probably with another training trip. Rooney Blue Chip, different type of situation, same type of regiment. This horse is not the soundest, not built for a half-mile track. Trained decent 2 weeks ago, and then last week looked like a bullet out there. Really happy with Rooney Blue Chip. I'd said to Mario after, we got him sound now, we got him going in the right direction. Let's keep it that way. Trained him a slow mile. Ava and I, so the kids come to the barn in the morning with us right now, which it's working out good. Odd, but working out good. And the last horse of the day the other day was Rooney Blue Chip, and Ava had a helmet on. She goes, can I come with you? And I wasn't going to train him. He didn't have any boots or anything on. I said, all right, honey, come on. So Ohad left I think it was Ohad left a 2-seater jog cart at the farm from the last open house when we had clients out. I didn't think they'd mind. I said, yeah, jump in that cart. We went out together and trained Rooney Blue Chip a mile around 2:35 or so, and he was good. He's a real professional. He loves his work. He's a real worker, and I just want to keep him sound. So we're just going to go easy miles with Rooney. We'll stretch him out once in a while, but he's got it all figured out. There's no mental blocks with him. Just have to keep him sound and keep him growing. So Rooney Blue Chip, horse that I've been really, really impressed with. Rose Run Valiant has her days when you love her and has her days when you don't. And yesterday she just made a couple of breaks. Jason just had the hobbles too long on her yesterday. Week before they were tight, she trotted. Week before that, we'd made some significant shoeing and equipment changes on her. James trained her in 2.6 and a race bike over the farm, which is all you want to be going with a horse. And she was very, very good. So I have no issues with Rose Run Versatile. Put the window down here. It's stuffy in here. My office is stuffy. So Rose Run Versatile, probably an easy work week next week. There's no reason to push and push and push on her. I know what the issue was yesterday. I knew it as soon as she pulled up. Sebastian Yu, another Colt, really takes his job seriously, understands his workload. I don't want to hurt him, so probably next week again, he'll just be training by himself easily to keep his maintenance up. So he might actually go to the field for 10 days. Some of these horses have been working very hard and don't need to be working in a race bike situation or a fast training mile situation every week. We're just trying to keep their maintenance and their endurance up. And we don't have to do that by pushing and pushing and pushing every week. We'll know a rough time frame when we're back. As long as we keep the horses in relatively good shape, a couple of miles, 2 weeks and a week out, we'll make them more than ready to race / qualify. So Sebastian Yu, right now, just doing some easy work. Sometimes things happen, might surprise a lot of people this year. He was very, very good yesterday. In case you didn't notice, he was very good last week. Jason's done an incredibly good job with this colt. He looks like $1 million. No hobbles on, no problems. He's not going to break. He feels as fluid and as comfortable as you could be. The reason we're going in the race bike, he's too big. He hits the jog carts, hits the stirrups and the jog carts. And it's a little easier just to say throw him in the race bike than it is look for an extra long or wide jog cart. So sometimes things happen. It's just been fantastic. Spend that money. This affiliate was awesome. First 3 weeks of the year last year. Then she got a little bit sick. Then she couldn't function towards the end of the year very well. We stopped with her, brought her back. 3 weeks ago, she was a little rickety in her qualifier. James said she's strong, but a little rough. The next week, similar but better. Her first training trip back on the farm, hard training trip. She was rough in the turns. We made some shoeing changes on her. She was awesome last week, never been better, and then good again yesterday. James said, if anything, she was a little hot yesterday, so I think we'll back her back off also and just give her a little light track work for the next week or two. Where are we at? We are at Spirit of Dio. Spirit of Dio is a filly we bought, a Trixton filly we bought. Always showed a ton of talent. But would make breaks training down. Half-mile track was not her forte, so to speak. And it was a chore to keep her trotting all the time. Wore her hobbles incredibly tight and had lots of weight on up front. We sent her down to Andrew. I went down there to drive her. And I tried to let her hobbles out. Every time I went to New Jersey to race her, I went last trip with her, and I tried to let her hobbles out just 1-2 holes. She'd run every time. She needed them singing tight. She won her first start last quarter in 26-4 over the Meadowlands. Come back, made a couple of breaks on James. I was second in the trotting series here. Second in the trotting series here. And then she was a winner in 156-3, I think, her last 2-year-old start. Another filly like Arctic Force. Feet bothered her a bit. Not as good on a half-mile track. Why don't we just send her to Florida? I sent her to John Boutenshane. He hasn't even put the hobbles on her yet. And Spirit of Dio looks great. I think she's really close to qualifying. He'd sent some photos out, and they look great. So John always does a good job. He's great to talk to on the phone. And Spirit of Dio appears like she is ready to rock. Sunshine and Shade had a decent year last year. I was second in 55 or 56 of them in Flamborough, I believe. He had a couple of good miles, but he always kind of felt like he was saving a bit for later. And made a little equipment change on him at the end of his 2-year-old season. We castrated him, trained back, and then his qualifier was at a necessity. There was no scooters or training allowed at the track that day. We qualified him. He went a mile in 59, but it was obvious he needed more work. And after yesterday's training set, I think he's there now. He looked awesome. Mario's done a good job with him. Finished up his mile good. Not only that, took over the lead and took off on them after the mile, which is important. So Sunshine and Shade, I'm very happy with him. Susie K has been even Steven. She did win a race in 2-3. Last half 59 at Flamborough. We were getting her ready to go to Illinois and race. That might turn into the Ohio Fairs or Ohio Buckeye Series when we get back. But she's been a nice filly to deal with. That 3-wide move from 9th. Might have been in with 2-year-olds, but we were coming a decent last half. And that 3-wide move was lots for her. But she handled it well and has been a real sweetheart to go with from day one. Trafalgar. This filly was sent to us last year by the breeder, Bob. We had her sister as a 2- and 3-year-old, Buckingham. Trafalgar was the 3-year-old sister. Why are the lights on? And Trafalgar looked great. early on. Her second or first lifetime start. She was second in 53 in a gold, and then we had to stop with her. She looks like she got cast in the stall. Her stall was all in disarray one morning. What's going on here? Her stall was in disarray one morning, and she was lame left hind. It took us about a week to find the problem. It was a rare issue. She had a line in her pelvis, a line in her femur, her tibia, and the vet thought that there was a shadow there. We had to stop with her for a while. Brought her back. She won a race in London by open lengths, prepping her for the final, and then in the final she was beat by a 3-year-old that ended up racing at Mohawk all winter. So Trafalgar had an odd but great 2-year-old season. On her way back, qualified her also. She was supposed to school, but ended up qualifying her in 157, I believe, in her qualifier. Jody went with her, said she jogged, she was easy. We've just been trying to go easy with her. Just a powerful filly. She doesn't got a big frame on her, though. We're trying to put some weight, some meat back on her. She doesn't have a big, powerful frame, but she's got lots to offer. And I think when we come back, she'll look a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger, a little bit thicker. And I think Trafalgar's going to have a good year for us in 2020. Watch Ev. James loved this horse last year. So here's the scoop. We'll rewind this guy also. I'm at the Harrisburg sale last year. I'm done buying horses, and an Amishman comes up to me. He says, Mr. McDonald, I have this really nice colt. I thought he'd bring 25,000, and I bought him back for, I forget what now, nothing, 10,000 or something. He said, I want to get 15,000 for him. I think he's worth that, but I'm willing to work with you. He said, but I know you can't pay for him up front, but I'm willing to work with him in your program. I talked to Sanina, Etsy, and she said, go see Anthony. I kind of understand your program. So we sat there and talked, and keep in mind, I already spent too much money and I already bought too many horses. So buying He's Watching Colt was not on the top of my list. He ended up talking me into it. We worked out an agreement, and we brought the horse with us back home. Trained him down. He looked okay, kind of in the middle of the road. James liked him his first year. I think he paced 54 one start. James loved him, said, please give him time off. His knees are hurting him. He's running in. I wasn't a fan of really giving him the time, but I did, and we brought him back. He looked good in a couple of qualifiers. He made a break. He worked okay in a couple of races. He made a break, and you could tell there was something there. He just couldn't put it all together yet. If anything, this time off has helped. He made a break in his last start. I talked about that in the other one. Kevin thought that putting the knee boots on him, maybe even actually might have drawn him into one knee a little bit. Might have touched himself, startled him, made a break in his last race. We took the knee boots back off of him. Trained him at Tamiko, and yesterday's training trip was just about as good as you could ask for. Mario gets along really well with him, and he told me after the first time he trained him, he said, that's a Mohawk horse. I said, okay, you think so? I think he's a decent horse. He said, no, he's going to be a nice horse. And I hope he's right. Mario gets along with him well. I don't like driving him. He's got a heavy mouth on him. It's not that I don't like the horse. I like the horse, but he's difficult to drive. I don't mean difficult that he's tricky, but he makes every waking second you're sitting behind him on the track frustrating sometimes, pulling and lugging and running in and just being rude. I think it's just a stubborn colt's learning curve, right? So Mario gets along with him, so Mario can likely stay on him. I like the colt. I think he has lots to offer, and I couldn't be any happier than what I've seen from him so far, especially over the last 2 weeks training here. He looked really, really good. Willpower Fashion, you guys know I talked about him. He was won my heart Hanover for last year, right? A horse I liked, talked about from day one. Obviously, he's nowhere near our best horse, but I still like the horse. I think he's got a lot to offer. He looked great training down this year, training back. He had some good miles last year. I think he trotted him 57 once. He bounced back good, come back this year. Kevin likes him. He's training well, and I'm hoping for a good summer from Willpower Fashion. Looked great yesterday training his set. Certainly did. And then Zeb Sunshine, little bit of a question mark always with this horse, right? When he was training down at 2, you could tell his knees bothered him. Should he have been castrated? I don't know. He ended up making breaks and just looking mediocre. And we knew there was more there, almost certain. Castrated him, turned him out, brought him back. He had his moments where he made breaks on me twice in a qualifier, I believe. And then we made a few shoeing adjustments, took a head pull off of him, and he qualified in 55 for Jody. last quarter in 27-2 and looked really, really good doing it. The comfort level I've seen from him over the last 2 weeks training here at Tamiko has been impressive, and Kevin has done a great job with him. I think that Zeb Sunshine also, much like Watch Avenue, has a lot more to offer than what they show just on their lines, and I think both of them are going to have a decent 2020 when we get back at it. So that's the 3-year-olds. You think that was lots? Wait until we get to the 2-year-olds. I'll be back in just a minute with every 2-year-old we have in length.